Moremi's hands shook as she pressed her back against the bathroom door, her heart hammering so violently she thought it might burst through her chest. Through the crack, she could see it, the thing that had been pretending to be her housemaid for 3 weeks. Iyabo's skin hung from the ceiling like a discarded garment, swaying gently in the darkness. And the creature beneath, the real Iyabo, hovered above her children's beds with eyes that glowed like hot coals in the night. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, drawing out golden threads of light from Temilede's sleeping mouth, her daughter's very life force disappearing into that horrible void. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But it was. And Moremi knew with absolute certainty that if she didn't do something right now, her children would be dead by morning. If you want to know how a successful Lagos businesswoman ended up fighting a witch for her family's survival, if you want to understand the signs you might have missed in your own home, then you need to hear this story from the beginning. But I'm warning you now, after you hear what happened to Moremi, you'll never look at house help the same way again. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the signs of evil are everywhere, and you need to know how to recognize them before it's too late. 6 weeks earlier, Moremi had no idea that evil was about to walk through her front door wearing a kind smile and humble clothes. It started on a Thursday evening in Lagos, the kind of humid, suffocating day that made everyone irritable and short-tempered. Moremi sat in her car outside the compound gate in Surale, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, fabric samples from Balogun Market scattered across the passenger seat. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Another supplier calling about delayed shipments. Another customer complaining about fabric quality. Another problem she had to solve while simultaneously being a wife, a mother, and a daughter. "Madam, you dey alright?" Musa, the security guard, knocked on her window with concern written across his weathered face. Moremi lifted her head and forced a smile. "I'm fine, Musa. Just tired." But she wasn't fine. Her mother had suffered a stroke 2 weeks ago and could no longer help with the children. Her husband Adibeo traveled constantly for the bank, leaving her to manage everything alone. The house was falling apart. The children were falling apart. She was falling apart. She gathered her bags and stepped out into the compound. The 2-story building looked the same as always, cream-colored walls, red-tiled roof, bougainvillea climbing the fence. But something felt different today. Heavier somehow. "Mommy." 5-year-old Bobojid rushed out the front door, his school uniform stained with red oil. "Temilade pushed me and my rice fell on my shirt." "I did not push you, you liar." 8-year-old Temilade appeared behind him, her hair uncombed, her own uniform wrinkled. "You fell by yourself because you're clumsy." "Enough." Moremi's voice came out sharper than she intended. Both children fell silent, eyes wide. She took a breath, softened her tone. "Where is Grandma?" "She's sleeping," Temilade said quietly. "She's always sleeping now." Moremi's heart sank. The house smelled of burnt rice and unwashed dishes. The sitting room was a disaster of scattered toys and school bags. This wasn't working. Something had to change. That night, after the children were finally asleep and Adibeo had called from Port Harcourt to say he'd be delayed another 3 days, Moremi sat at the kitchen table and cried. Not the gentle tears of momentary sadness, but the deep, gasping sobs of someone drowning in responsibility with no life preserver in sight. "Please," she whispered to no one in particular, to God, to the universe, to anyone who might be listening. "Please, I need help. I can't do this alone anymore." She didn't know that something had heard her. Something that had been waiting for just such a desperate prayer. The next evening, Friday, Moremi returned home to find a woman sitting on the low wall outside their compound gate. She was youngish, perhaps 30, with dark skin and darker eyes. She wore a simple Ankara wrapper and blouse, her hair covered with a modest headscarf. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance, nothing that should have made Moremi's stomach flutter with unease. But it did. "Good evening, Ma." The woman stood as Moremi's car approached, her movements fluid and graceful. "My name is Iyabo. I heard you are looking for house help." Moremi parked and stepped out slowly. "I never said I was looking for help." "Who told you that?" Iyabo smiled, and her teeth were very white in the fading light. "Word travels in Lagos, Mo. A woman in the market mentioned it. I have experience with children and elderly care. I can cook, clean, and I'm very discreet. I don't cause trouble." Something about the way she said it made Moremi shiver despite the evening heat. "I haven't even decided if I want to hire anyone yet." "But you need help." It wasn't a question. Iyabo's dark eyes seemed to see straight through to Moremi's exhausted soul. "You're tired. Your children need you. Your mother needs you. Your business needs you. You can't do everything alone." The words hit too close to home. Moremi found herself nodding. "Do you have references?" "I can get them," Iyabo said smoothly. "But perhaps you could try me for 1 week first. See if I'm suitable. I don't require advance payment. If you're unsatisfied, I'll leave immediately." Every rational part of Moremi's brain screamed that this was wrong. You don't hire someone without references, without background checks, without proper documentation. But the desperate, drowning part of her, the part that had sobbed at the kitchen table last night, that part whispered, "Yes, yes, please, I need this." "All right," Moremi heard herself say. 1 week trial. You can start tomorrow." Iyabo's smile widened. "I can start tonight, Mo. I have my bag with me." She gestured to a small cloth bundle at her feet that Moremi hadn't noticed before. "Tonight. No time like the present, Mo. And you look like you could use the rest immediately." Against her better judgment, Moremi nodded. As Iyabo picked up her bundle and followed her through the gate, Moremi noticed Musa the security guard watching them with a strange expression on his face. Later, she would wish she had asked him what was wrong. Later, she would wish she had listened to the warning bells clanging in her own mind. But desperation makes people ignore warning bells. The first week was miraculous. There was no other word for it. Iyabo transformed the household with an efficiency that seemed almost supernatural. The house gleamed. Meals appeared perfectly timed and perfectly prepared. The children's uniforms were pressed and ready each morning. Even Moremi's mother seemed to improve, spending more time awake and smiling. "This Iyabo is a blessing," Adebayo said over the phone on Wednesday. "The house has never looked this good." Moremi had to agree, even as something in the back of her mind whispered that it was all too perfect. No one was this good at everything. But she pushed the thought away. She was sleeping through the night for the first time in weeks. Her business was thriving again now that she could focus. The children seemed happy. Why question a good thing? The first crack in the perfect facade appeared on Saturday morning. Moremi came downstairs to find Temilade standing in the kitchen doorway, staring at Iyabo with an odd expression. "What's wrong, my love?" Moremi asked. Temilade jumped, startled. "Nothing, Mommy." But that night, as Moremi tucked her daughter into bed, Temilade grabbed her hand. "Mommy, does Auntie Iyabo ever eat?" "Of course she eats. Why do you ask?" "I've never seen her eat. She makes our food, but she never eats with us." "And Mommy?" Temilade's voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes at night, I wake up and I think I see her standing in our doorway. Just standing there. Watching us." A chill ran down Moremi's spine. "You're having bad dreams, darling. Auntie Iyabo sleeps in the boys' quarters. She wouldn't come into your room." "But Mommy." "Enough. Go to sleep." Moremi closed the door, but Temilade's words echoed in her mind. "Children have active imaginations," she told herself. "Don't let village superstitions infect your thinking." This is exactly the kind of nonsense her mother would have believed. House helps who are really witches, spirits disguised as humans, evil lurking in every corner. She went to check on Iyabo and found her in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared dough for the next day's breakfast. The tune was strange, wordless, in a language Moremi didn't recognize. It made her skin prickle. Iyabo, is everything alright? The humming stopped. Iyabo turned with that white smile. Yes, Ma. Just preparing for tomorrow. Is there anything you need? No, I wanted to make sure you're comfortable. You're doing excellent work. Thank you, Ma. I aim to please. Something in her tone made it sound like a promise and a threat all at once. That night, Moremi couldn't sleep. She lay in bed beside Adibeo, who had finally returned from his trip, and listened to the house. The normal sounds of settling wood and distant traffic were there, but underneath them, she could swear she heard that humming again. That strange, wordless melody that made her think of dark forests and older, crueler times. Week 2 began with a tragedy. On Monday morning, the family dog, a gentle Alsatian named Sango who had been with them for 6 years, was found dead in the compound. No wounds, no signs of poisoning, no explanation. He simply lay on his side near the generator, his eyes still open, his mouth frozen in what looked like a silent scream. What happened to him? Bobojit sobbed, clinging to Moremi's wrapper. I don't know, baby. Sometimes animals just die. But Moremi remembered how Sango had started growling at Iyabo over the weekend. The dog, usually friendly to everyone, had bared his teeth and backed away whenever the housemaid approached. Moremi had scolded him, embarrassed by his behavior. Now Sango was dead. Animals know things people don't, her mother used to say. They can see what we cannot. Madam, I dispose of the body, Iyabo offered, appearing behind Moremi so silently that she jumped. How long have you been standing there? I just arrived, Mo. I'm sorry about the dog. These things happen. Was there satisfaction in her voice? Or was Moremi imagining it? That afternoon, Moremi returned from the market early and heard voices in the kitchen. She paused in the hallway, something making her stay quiet. Please, Iyabo, you have to eat something. That was her mother's voice, weak but insistent. You work so hard. You need your strength. I appreciate your concern, Mo, but I have everything I need. Iyabo's voice was cold, nothing like the warm tone she used with Moremi and Adibeo. You're not well. I can see it. There's something wrong with you. Wrong with me. A laugh, sharp and bitter. There's nothing wrong with me, old woman. But I wonder about you. You look so pale these days. So weak. Like something is draining your strength away. Stay away from my grandchildren. Silence. Then Iyabo spoke again, and her voice made Moremi's blood run cold. Or what, old woman? You're barely strong enough to leave your bed. What could you possibly do to protect them? Moremi burst into the kitchen. What's going on here? Both women turned. Her mother looked terrified, her wrinkled hands shaking. Iyabo's face transformed instantly into that pleasant, helpful smile. Nothing, Ma. Just having a nice chat with Mama. She's feeling tired. I was about to help her back to bed. I can help my own mother. Moremi went to her mother's side, felt how thin she had become, how fragile. When had that happened? Mama, are you alright? Her mother's eyes darted to Iyabo, then away. Yes. Just tired. But after Iyabo left the room, her mother grabbed Moremi's hand with surprising strength. Listen to me. That woman is not what she seems. You must send her away before. Before what, Mama? Before she cooks our meals and cleans our house and makes her lives easier. Before she destroys this family. Her mother's eyes were wild now, desperate. I know what she is. I've seen her kind before in the village. She's a witch. She walks at night without her skin. She feeds on. Enough. Moremi pulled her hand away, frustrated and frightened by her mother's intensity. I won't listen to this village nonsense. Iyabo is just a housemaid. A human being. Not a witch, not a spirit, just a woman who works hard. I need you to stop this, Mama. These stories aren't helping anyone. Her mother's face crumpled. You don't believe me. My own daughter doesn't believe me. Tears rolled down her weathered cheeks. When you finally see the truth, it will be too late. She's already begun her work. Can't you feel it? Can't you feel how she's draining the life from this house? Moremi left the room, her mother's sobs following her down the hallway. Village superstition, she told herself firmly. Old stories meant to scare children. There was no such thing as witches who removed their skin at night. No such thing as evil spirits disguised as humans. This was Lagos in 2024, not some remote village in the 1800s. But that night, Moremi paid attention to things she had been unconsciously ignoring. The way the plants in the compound had started dying, their leaves brown and curled despite regular watering. The way food in the house seemed to spoil faster than it should, developing a strange, ashy taste. The way the children had dark circles under their eyes despite sleeping a full 8 hours. The way Adebayo had become irritable and distant, snapping at her over small things. And the way Iyabo never, ever ate in front of them. Week 3 brought nightmares. Both children started waking up screaming in the middle of the night, tangled in their sheets, sobbing about dark figures standing over their beds. Moremi would rush to comfort them, searching the room and finding nothing, no one. Just the ordinary furniture and toys, the Mickey Mouse nightlight casting its gentle glow. Mommy, she was here, Temilade insisted on Tuesday night, her body shaking. Auntie Iyabo was here. She was doing something to Bobojid. Something bad. Auntie Iyabo was in her quarters sleeping, just like everyone else. No, Mommy, she wasn't. She was here and she looked different. Her eyes were red and she was floating above his bed and there was something coming out of his mouth, something gold and bright, and she was eating it. That's enough. Moremi snapped, her own exhaustion fraying her patience. These nightmares have to stop. You're scaring your brother with these stories. But Bobojid wasn't scared of Temilade's stories. He was scared of something else. Mommy, he whispered, what's that on my arm? Moremi turned on the main light. 3 long scratches ran down Bobojid's forearm, red and angry against his dark skin. Fresh scratches that hadn't been there when she tucked him in 2 hours ago. You must have scratched yourself in your sleep, she said, but her voice shook. Mommy, I didn't. She did it. The thing that looks like Auntie Iyabo did it. Moremi bandaged the scratches with trembling hands. There had to be a rational explanation. Children scratch themselves in their sleep all the time. The nightmares were probably caused by too much sugar before bed, or scary stories at school, or any number of normal childhood things. Not witches. Never witches. But the next morning, she found something that made her carefully constructed rationality begin to crumble. She was looking for Temilade's missing school shoe under the bed when her hand touched something sticky. She pulled out a small leather pouch, barely larger than her palm, tied with red string. Inside were nail clippings, strands of hair, both children's hair, she realized with growing horror, and something that looked like dried blood mixed with a dark powder. Her hands shook as she examined it. This was juju. Real, deliberate juju. Someone had made this charm with her children's hair and nails, ingredients that could only have been collected by someone with access to their personal items, someone who lived in this house. Looking for something, Moremi spun around. Iyabo stood in the doorway, that perpetual smile on her face. But her eyes, God, why had Moremi never noticed how dead her eyes were? Like looking into empty holes where a soul should be. What is this? Moremi held up the pouch. Iyabo's smile didn't waver. I have no idea, Mo. Perhaps the previous tenants left it. Old houses often have strange things hidden in them. This is my children's hair. They are nail clippings. Is it? How can you be sure? All hair looks similar in the dark. Get out. The smile finally faded. Excuse me, Mo. Get out of my house. Now. Pack your things and get out. For a moment, something flashed across Iyabo's face. Something cold and ancient and utterly inhuman. Then the pleasant mask returned. Of course, Mo. If that's what you wish. Though I should warn you, sending me away won't solve your problems. Your problems run much deeper than you know. I said get out. Iyabo nodded slowly. I'll collect my things. But Mo, you should know that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. Some invitations, once extended, cannot be withdrawn. You asked for help. Someone answered. And now? She smiled again, and this time there was nothing pleasant about it. Now the wheel is in motion. I could leave today, but others will come. They always do. She glided from the room, and Moremi realized she had never actually seen Iyabo walk normally. She always seemed to float, to drift, her feet barely touching the ground. Moremi spent the afternoon searching the house. She found pouches like the first one hidden in every room, behind furniture, under mattresses, in the kitchen cabinets. Each contained hair, nails, and that dark powder that smelled like rot and old graves. She found symbols drawn in palm oil on the underside of tables and chairs, sigils she didn't recognize but that made her stomach turn to look at. She found, hidden in Iyabo's room in the boys' quarters, a shrine. Small and carefully concealed, it consisted of a calabash surrounded by candles, family photographs with pins stuck through the faces, and a leather-bound book written in a language Moremi couldn't read. The calabash was filled with a dark liquid that smelled like blood and something else, something worse. Something that made Moremi gag and stumble backward. This wasn't village superstition. This was real. This was happening. She called Adebayo, her voice shaking so badly she could barely speak. You need to come home. Now. Right now. What's wrong? Are the children hurt? Just come home. He arrived an hour later to find Moremi sitting in the locked master bedroom with both children, the juju pouches spread across the bed, her mother's warnings finally ringing true in her mind. This is what I found hidden around the house, she said. This is what Iyabo has been doing. Adebayo examined the pouches, his face growing darker with each one. He was a modern man, educated, rational. But he was also Yoruba, raised with stories of witches and juju and the hidden world that lurked beneath the everyday. He knew what he was looking at. Where is she? I told her to leave. But Bayo. Moremi's voice cracked. She said sending her away won't help. She said others will come. What did she mean? What have I done? You didn't do anything wrong, he said, but his voice was uncertain. We'll handle this. We'll get a pastor to pray over the house. Will. Daddy. Temilade's small voice interrupted. Daddy, Auntie Iyabo is still here. What? She's outside. She's been standing in the compound for the past hour. Just standing there. Watching the house. They went to the window. Sure enough, Iyabo stood in the center of the compound, perfectly still, her face turned up toward their bedroom window. As they watched, she smiled and waved slowly, deliberately. The sun was setting behind her, and in the orange light, she cast no shadow. Jesus Christ, Adebayo breathed. That night, Moremi made a decision. She sent the children to her sister's house in Ikeja, told Adebayo to stay with them, and called her uncle, her mother's brother, Baba Ajoni. He was a traditional healer, a man who understood the old ways, the hidden world. The kind of man she had always dismissed as superstitious and backwards. Now he was her only hope. He arrived after midnight, a small, wiry man in his 70s with eyes that missed nothing. He walked through the house slowly, pausing at each hidden pouch, each drawn symbol, his face growing grimmer with each discovery. "How long has she been here?" he asked finally. 3 weeks. "And you let her in willingly? You invited her?" "I was desperate. I needed help." He nodded sadly. "They always come when we're desperate. They can smell it, you see. Desperation is like blood in the water to sharks. It draws them." "What is she?" "Age. A witch. And not just any witch, this one is powerful. She's been sent by someone who hates you very much. Someone who wants everything you have." He examined the calabash shrine. "This is a draining ritual. She's been stealing your family's life force, your prosperity, your destiny. Transferring it to whoever sent her. Who would do this? Who have you angered recently? What business rival might want to destroy you?" Moremi thought back over the past months. There was only one person who fit, Folktale said, a woman she had outbid for a major textile contract 3 months ago. Folktale said had been furious, screaming in the market that Moremi had stolen what was rightfully hers, that she would pay for her betrayal. "I know who," she whispered. "Then you know why." Baba Ajoni placed his weathered hand on her shoulder. "But knowing why doesn't solve the problem. The witch is still here. She hasn't left because her work isn't finished. She won't leave until she's drained this family completely, until there's nothing left but empty shells. Your children would be dead within 2 weeks. Your husband within 3. You would live longest, but only so you could watch them die and know it was your fault." The words hit like physical blows. "How do I stop her?" "There is only one way to kill a night witch. You must find where she hides her skin and burn it. Without her skin, she cannot return to human form. Without her human form, she would dissolve into the spirit world." "Her skin? You mean?" "She removes it at night. All night witches do. They shed their human appearance and fly in their true form. But the skin is precious to them. They hide it carefully, usually in the ceiling or roof, somewhere high. You must wait until she transforms, find the skin, and burn it with these herbs." He handed her a small wrapped bundle. "But be warned, the moment you light the fire, she'll know. She'll come for you. And her true form is terrible to behold. I don't have a choice, do I?" "No," he said simply. "You don't. If you're still watching this story, if you've made it this far, then you understand that evil doesn't always look evil. It comes with a smile and helpful hands. It comes when you're desperate and alone. And it's closer than you think." Hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next, what Moremi sees when Iyabo finally reveals her true form, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about the world. Don't miss it. The next night, Moremi sent Adebayo and the children to a hotel. She told him she had a business meeting, that he shouldn't worry. She lied because she couldn't bear for him to try to stop her, to try to protect her. This was her mistake to fix. Her demon to face. She pretended to take sleeping pills, made a show of going to bed early. From her room, she heard Iyabo moving around downstairs, humming that terrible song. Moremi lay in the dark, her heart pounding so hard she was sure it could be heard throughout the house. Baba Ajoni's herbs were hidden under her pillow. A box of matches was in her pocket. All she had to do was wait. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2 a.m. Moremi's eyes burned with the effort of staying awake and motionless. She heard the house settling, the distant sound of generators in neighboring compounds, a dog barking somewhere far away. Then, at 3 a.m., she heard it. Movement in the hallway outside her room. Not the sound of footsteps, but something else. A sliding, dragging sound. Like cloth being pulled across the floor. Moremi's breath caught. She forced herself to remain still, eyes barely open, watching the crack under her door. A shadow passed by. Then another. Then silence. She waited 5 agonizing minutes before slipping out of bed. The hallway was dark, illuminated only by moonlight through the windows. She crept toward the children's empty bedroom, her bare feet silent on the cool tiles. The door was open. Inside, she could see movement. What Moremi saw in that room would haunt her for the rest of her life. The thing that had been Iyabo stood in the center of the room, but it was no longer pretending to be human. Its skin hung from the ceiling beam like a discarded coat, wrinkled and empty. The creature beneath was something from nightmares made flesh, dark and skeletal, its limbs too long, its joints bending in wrong directions. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, and when it opened its mouth, Moremi saw no teeth but a void, a darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. The creature floated toward the bed where her children should have been sleeping. It hovered there for a long moment, then slowly turned its head toward Moremi. Those red eyes fixed on her, and she realized with horror that it had known she was watching all along. "No children tonight," it said, and its voice was nothing like Iyabo's pleasant tones. This voice was like wine through dead trees, like the last breath of dying things. How disappointing. "But you're here, Moremi. That's even better. I can drain you directly, watch the light fade from your eyes, feel your life pour into me like honey." It drifted toward her, and Moremi's paralysis broke. She ran. Down the hallway, the creature following with horrible slowness, knowing she had nowhere to go. Into her bedroom, slamming the door. But doors meant nothing to a creature that could float through walls. She grabbed the herbs from under her pillow, but she needed the skin. The skin hanging in the children's room. The skin she'd have to go back for. The door exploded inward. The creature filled the doorway, its red eyes burning. "Where will you run, little mother? This is my house now. You invited me in. You fed me your desperation. And now I'll feed on you." Moremi did the only thing she could think of. She threw herself at the window, crashed through it in an explosion of glass and landed hard in the compound below. Pain shot through her ankle, her hands. Blood ran from a dozen cuts. But she was alive, and she was moving. She limped toward the children's room. She could access it from outside, through their window. Behind her, she heard the creature's terrible laughter, heard it flowing through the broken window like smoke. "Run, little mother. Run and bleed. Your fear makes you delicious." She reached the children's window, hauled herself through despite the screaming pain in her ankle. The skin still hung from the ceiling beam, and she could see it more clearly now. It looked exactly like Iyabo, empty eye socket staring at nothing, mouth slack. It was grotesque and horrible, and she had to touch it. Moremi grabbed the chair, climbed up despite her injuries, pulled the skin down. It was warm and soft and utterly wrong in her hands. She nearly dropped it in revulsion but forced herself to hold on. The creature's shriek shattered the windows. It materialized in the doorway, rage distorting its already horrific features. "Put that down. Put it down or I'll rip your soul from your body while you still live." Moremi jumped from the chair and ran again, clutching the skin and the herbs. Through the house, out into the compound. She had to light the fire outside, where the creature would have to leave the building to stop her. She reached the center of the compound and fell to her knees, her injured ankle finally giving out. Behind her, the creature poured through the front door like liquid shadow. Moremi's hands shook as she arranged the herbs in a circle, placed the skin in the center. The matches. Where were the matches? Her pocket. They were in her pocket. She pulled them out with trembling, bloody fingers. The creature was getting closer, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from its body, close enough to smell the rot and death that clung to it. "You can't kill me," it hissed, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "I am eternal. I am hunger. I am the dark that waits in every heart. Burn the skin and 10 more will come for you. 100. 1,000. Folktale has paid for your complete destruction." Moremi struck the match. It flared to life in the darkness. "Then let them come," she said, and dropped it onto the herbs. The fire exploded upward with blue and green flames, catching the skin instantly. The creature's scream was inhuman, agonizing, a sound that made Moremi's ears ring and her teeth ache. It lunged for the fire, but the moment it touched the blessed flames, its form began to dissolve. Smoke poured from its body, black and oily, swirling in the night air. "You haven't won," it shrieked as it came apart. "Others will come. They always come. You'll never be safe. Never. Your children will die screaming. Your husband will." The voice cut off. The creature exploded into a cloud of black smoke that dissipated on the wind. The skin in the fire caught and blackened and disappeared, and suddenly the night was silent except for the crackling flames and Moremi's ragged breathing. She had won. But at what cost? Inside the house, she found the calabash shrine had shattered, dark liquid spreading across the floor. The photographs of her family were scattered, the pins fallen away. The leather book had burned from the inside out, leaving only ashes. Moremi called Baba Ajoni, called Adibeo, called everyone. The house was blessed, cleansed, every trace of Iyabo's presence scrubbed away. The children came home. Life slowly returned to normal. But Moremi never forgot the creature's final words. "Others will come. They always come." 3 months passed. The business thrived again. The children stopped having nightmares. Adibeo's energy returned. Moremi's mother recovered her strength. Everything should have been fine. Should have been. But on a rainy Thursday evening, exactly 3 months after Iyabo's destruction, Moremi returned home to find someone sitting outside her compound gate. A woman, youngish, perhaps 30, with dark skin and darker eyes. She wore a simple Ankara wrapper and blouse, her hair covered with a modest headscarf. She looked nothing like Iyabo. Nothing at all. But when she smiled and stood, when she said, "Good evening, Ma. My name is Ronk. I heard you might need some help around the house," Moremi saw it. That dead look in her eyes. That same hungry emptiness. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning again. Moremi's hand shook on her car door. Inside the house, she could see her children through the window, playing and laughing, innocent and unaware. Adibeo was visible in the kitchen, probably cooking dinner. Her mother dozed in her chair, finally healthy again. The woman, Ronk, took a step closer. "Ma, did you hear me? I can start right away. I'm very good with children. Very nurturing." Behind her, in the fading light, Moremi saw others. 2 more women standing in the shadows down the street. 3. 4. All watching her house. All smiling those empty smiles. Folktale hadn't sent one witch. She'd sent an army. And they would keep coming until the job was done. Moremi reached for her phone to call Baba Ajoni, but before she could dial, Ronk was somehow right beside her car window, though Moremi hadn't seen her move. The woman's face was inches from the glass, her breath fogging it up from outside, which should have been impossible. "You can call your uncle if you want," Ronk whispered, her voice penetrating the closed window as if it weren't there. "You can fight us one by one. You can burn our skins and think you've won. But Ma, Her smile widened impossibly, her mouth stretching too far across her face. We are patient. We are eternal. And we always finish what we start. The only question is, how many people you love have to die before you realize you can't win? Moremi's phone slipped from her trembling fingers. Inside the house, the lights flickered. And all down the street, in the gathering darkness, more women appeared. 10. 20. 50. All of them watching. All of them smiling. All of them waiting. If this story terrified you, if you're now looking at every helpful stranger with suspicion, if you understand that the battle between good and evil never truly ends, then you need to subscribe right now. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me if you've ever felt something was wrong with someone in your home, and share this story with everyone you know. Because Moremi's fight isn't over. And maybe, just maybe, yours is just beginning. The question is, will you recognize the signs before it's too late? The screen fades to black, but in the darkness, we hear Rong's laughter. And it sounds like it's coming from inside your room.